Corner from Bukhara, Uzbekistan, Shakhobidin Zoirov.
Off against his familiar rival, his fellow Olympian Yoel Finol.
Venezuela, Yoel Finol.
Between them, these two have won so much as amateurs. The appearances they've had at numerous World Championships, Pan American Games, Asian Games, just everything you can really think of. And Finol, of course, with that win from the first fight, 3-0 in IBA.PRO. And we expect a good fight again because these two, as we know, are well matched. And you'd imagine that the work rate will be high once again as Finol comes in to the gold corner. We have gold and black corners in IBA.PRO, and the Dubai Duty Free Tennis Stadium with a different vibe to it from the one we've had over the last few days. The seats have been put in around ringside, so it's got that slightly more pro feel to it. Top of the bill, of course, Pulev up against Murat Gassiev for the WBA heavyweight title. We are here with two smaller but very, very skillful
This bout is sanctioned by IBA supervisor Maxim Chertykovtsev, Moldova. Ladies and gentlemen, both fighters already met in Olympic final in Rio de Janeiro and just 1 year ago here in Dubai, and now their count is 1-1. And before the introductions, please rise for the national anthems. Ladies and gentlemen, national anthem of Republic of Uzbekistan. And now, the national anthem of Venezuela. Introducing first, fighting out of the black corner. He weighed in at 53.35 kilograms with IBA record consisting of 2 fights, 1 win and 1 defeat. He is Asian amateur champion, world amateur champion, Olympic champion from Bukhara, Uzbekistan, Shakhobidin Zoirov. And his opponent in the gold corner, he weighed in at 53.4 kilograms. In IBA.PRO, he has 2 fights, 2 victories with no defeats, Olympic silver medalist, Pan American Games silver medalist, IBA.PRO bantamweight champion of the world, representando a Merida, Venezuela, Yoel Finol.
So final checks from the referee, this scheduled for 10. And we know what we saw last year. It was a very entertaining contest, action-packed right
Referee
from
of this bout
very start.
From Moldova, Valery Pastukhov.
Gentlemen, head up, no holding, no listen to me comments. Check. Good luck.
And it's Finol in the white, Zoirov in the black. And Uzbekistan have had a lot of success in this stadium over the last 10 days or so. A terrific showing in the World Amateur Boxing Championships for them as they just keep producing absolutely astonishing fighters. And Zoirov, as I say, in the black, just looking to try and get onto the front foot here. Finol just giving that ground at the moment. Just taking the jab to the body there, Zoirov. Jab from Finol. Again, Zoirov with the jab, just creeping in on that front foot. Finol throwing off the back foot. These two just having a look at each other. They shared those 10 rounds. They know each other pretty well. We're right next to the black corner. Uppercut there from Finol. And just keeping that upper body just on the move. Zoirov not looking to do anything spectacular. And rematches, when the first one has been very entertaining, they can sometimes take a little bit of time to get going because the two fighters feel often that they know each other that well. The risks they might have taken in the first encounter, they're less inclined to take the second time around, particularly if you've got two fighters who emerge from a fight knowing that they're in for a serious test, which is exactly what will be the case here. Left hand from Zoirov. It's the final minute of round 1. This scheduled for 10. And Zoirov has thrown more in this opening round of the two of them. He's been the one on the front foot, and in the pro ring that's going to translate to winning the round. No one's landed anything particularly clean. Jab got through there from Zoirov. Finol's landed a couple too, but there's not been any real power on any of the punches. Final few seconds. A cagey opener there, wasn't it? And you wonder about tactics in a rematch, don't you? Zoirov, for example, felt he did enough in the first one, but he didn't get it. So yes. What will he do this time?
Indeed. And to your point about rematches, you just had the privilege of being in Manila for IBA Pro 12. to commemorate the 50th anniversary of the Thriller in Manila, and it was ahead of that contest between what, in my money, is the greatest heavyweight rivalry that we've ever had between Ali and Frazier. Joe Frazier said ahead of the third showdown, let Ali talk all he wants, because once that bell rings, he's going to remember how long, how hard, and how lonely it is to share a ring with me. And I just wonder, to your point that you made during commentary, whether similar sentiments are being experienced here, because they know that the other guy's really not going anywhere. They went hell for leather in the first contest, lots of punches thrown, and they were still both there at the very end, at the conclusion of a very competitive encounter. So very cagey. Zoirov, certainly the busier boxer over the course of the first 3 minutes. But will Finol be able to establish his switch hitting range, and how will he choose to go about this rematch as we enter the second?
And it's hard to argue with that. I think they're both booking in for a 10-rounder here, aren't they? They're both assuming that that is what is going to happen, and rather than go at it all guns blazing for half an hour, you look to conserve a little bit more energy. But what's interesting about that is it means that these cagey early rounds, you can't afford to drop them all, saving energy for the second half. You can't find yourself 5-0 down at half-time with a full gas tank, because that's a huge mountain to climb. So even though they're not looking to exert themselves too much, you've still got to try and find a way to win. And Zoirov, I think, put that first one in his pocket without doing much, and Finol can't let him do that again, for example, in the second round. You've got to make sure you don't allow the other person to open up any clear water, because you both know that when it does come to the point of the fight where you need to put the foot down, you're both capable of it. So mindset-wise, it's a different kind of encounter for the pair of them. That jab's worked well for Zoirov so far. He's landed it a few times. Right hand into the body there from Finol. Left into the body there from Finol, who's looking to try and get on the jab a little bit more. He's been busier in this round than he was in the first round. Both of them missing with hooks. And again, just taking that jab to the body, Zoirov. Again, the jab of Zoirov. It's been the most accurate shot for either one of these two throughout the course of this fight so far, early though it is. He stepped in with that 1-2 a couple of times, Finol, and maybe just shut down his own space a bit, because both times, or every time he's done it, he's not really had the room for it. He's found himself right on top of Zoirov, who is pretty adept at just dipping those knees and getting himself nice and low. Right hand to the body there from Finol. But there's that jab again from Zoirov. Finol's found the body a decent amount in this opening round, though. He definitely, this second round, he definitely has been busier. I don't think there's an awful lot to choose between them in that one.
Again, Zoirov, the busier boxer, coming out of the gate, but then Finol responding with some good stab jabs to the body in the closing portion of the round. And I find it fascinating watching these two. You can just see, we talked about it during the IBA 3-round tournament, the 23rd edition of the IBA Men's World Champs. In this sport, you've got a jab, a cross, hooks and uppercuts. Yet within that, the manner in which the boxers choose to put them together is often a reflection of how they've been raised in the sport and their personality. You've got the flash of Yoel Finol and the fundamental soundness of Zoirov. And it's not to say that Finol isn't fundamentally sound, but you can see from the way he carries himself out of the ring with the elaborate hairstyle and the skin art, he is an expressive, gregarious guy. Whereas Zoirov, $5 fade, no nonsense, no skin art, and he just goes about his business. And I find that a really intriguing mix, because they're both in pursuit of the same objective, but they're going about accomplishing it in entirely different ways.
So the bell goes at the start of the third. Zoirov in the black, Finol in the white. Again, just dips his knees, stoops. Scores that jab to the body there, Zoirov. Looking for that long 1-2. Finol with the guard. His guard is pretty effective. And then steps in looking for that right hand to the body, flings the left hand over the top. Quite a lot of what they're throwing has been blocked, or at least half blocked. And I just wonder if they're going to crank this up bit by bit by bit. Because the second round was busier than the first because Finol upped his work rate. The Scurry's in with his feet, and then the left hand gets through, I think, half clean there from Zoirov, and just a little injection of pace from the pair of them there, looking to throw some menacing headshots. And I think it's going to be one of those fights where if one of them ups it a bit, the other one will feel like they've got to go with him, and vice versa. Left hand there from Zoirov. So I think this could be one of those contests that just heats up round by round by round, and I think by the time we get to the end we'll get a very interesting finale, because there is so little to choose between them. That was a good combination, and the legs just stiffened a little bit there for Finol. He was caught high on the head, I think, and Zoirov is trying to close in. Finol gets a hold of him, which is the right thing to do, but he was in trouble there for a second. You could see that the legs just did not respond in the way that he wanted them to. It's that kind of electric shock almost reaction that a fighter gets, where they just feel this surge where they're not really in control of their limbs anymore. And maybe it's past now, just inside a minute to go in round 3. I think it was a punch that caught him quite high on the head. That's the kind of reaction that can often give. And he seems fairly solid again now, Finol. So maybe Zoirov there has just slightly missed his window, but that was a window. And when he closed in, possibly just rushed things a bit. Final 30 seconds, and Finol is coming back nicely here, and this now is catching fire. Left hand there from Finol. Zoirov just forced to throw off the back foot. Big swinging overhand left again there from Finol. Zoirov just digging his own toes in and slinging in that backhand. Well, we're getting towards the end of the third round here, and I think we're getting into the kind of territory we saw almost for the duration of the fight the first time around, and things really picked up there. And I don't know, we'll see it again, won't we? But that definitely got a reaction, didn't it, that punch from Zoirov? It
certainly did. And it's interesting because the manner in which Finol's moving around the boxing ring, as we alluded to in the interval between rounds 2 and 3, is all dexterity and wonderful movement from the waist. When he tried to execute it, as though his feet were rooted in the canvas, and he stood up straight and stiff right there, and that's why he ended up going tottering backwards. But to his credit, claimed his man, weathered the storm, and ended the round on the front foot, making Zoirov become disorganized. So each man having success, getting a response from the other, taking them out of their boxing stance. And as you said during your commentary, that was typical of what we saw in the first encounter at this time last year in Dubai. A terrific contest heating up in that third round, and he responded to that moment of incident very well indeed.
He did, and it's interesting watching it again, because I think you talked through it accurately there, because he got caught standing up a bit tall, got kind of lifted up a bit, lost his balance, and that maybe is what caused the kind of stutter with the legs, rather than that kind of jerky motion you get when somebody's just had that miniature short circuit. So I'm not sure if that's actually what it was. It really looked like it in real time, and it may well have looked like it around ringside as well to the judges, but he did recover. He did recover. So 3 rounds deep. Finol again just skirting along the ropes here. That's where he's been for By no means all of the fight, but a decent part of the fight. He's comfortable enough there as well. It's not like Zoirov's really driving him back. He's giving that ground, he's happy to give it, and then just tries to let his hands go there as he moves forward. Didn't really make any meaningful kind of contact. Long left hand there from Zoirov. And using that single left hand 4 or 5 times in a row there. Punching down with that left there, Finol, right into the body. That's a strong looking right hand from him. Just caused Zoirov to take a backward step. Into the final minute. A little bit of tip-tapping on the inside there from Finol, and then put some meat on the uppercut, but didn't manage to land it. One left hand got through, but Finol just leaning deep into the ropes there, was happy enough with how he's protecting himself, I think. Good right hand into the body, then looks for that left hand over the top, just about landed. And in this 4th round, after an injection of pace, a surge in the 3rd, it's kind of normal service resumed. So here's a question for you: who's winning these rounds?
It's so difficult to decide, and it could well come down to what does the judge prefer, because you've got the front foot pressure that this man's seeking to apply, but then there was a portion in this round, he's inviting pressure on the ropes here where he did get through, but then Finol shaping and shimmying around the pocket with some outstanding footwork, and invariably he's ending the round stronger. He's ending the round coming back with a strong portion of his own, is Finol. So Zoirov invariably getting the better of the first portion of the round. Finol looking to answer. They're having their successes in different ways, but each of them enjoying notable success. Do you prefer this man and his expressive approach to the sweet science of boxing? Do you prefer the more fundamentally rooted orthodoxy of the switch hitting Shakhobidin Zoirov? It's incredibly close, and I think it comes down to the style and school of boxing that you prefer.
I would make you right. I think looking at it, I felt like round 1 was clear enough to Zoirov, because Finol was pretty inactive. He didn't really do a lot. Round 3, if the judges at ringside saw what I thought I saw in real time, which was just a twitch of the legs basically after a good solid punch was thrown, they might feel like that was enough to take that round, but there's not much in these rounds at all. And as you say, what has been basically happening is that Zoirov in the early stages of it will look a bit sharper. Well, not even sharper really, but he's just throwing more and on the front foot more like he is here, and then Finol will look to get most of his work done in the back end of the round. The advantage to that potentially is that obviously that's more recent by the time the judges come to write their score on the slip of paper in between rounds, but there's very little to choose between these two. A minute into round 5, they're scheduled for 10, so we're not far off the halfway stage. And just tucking up nicely there, Finol. He's got good extension with that left hand, Finol, but he's finding it hard to catch Zoirov with it. The right hand worked better there, straight right hand and then into the body, and then a kind of right hand lead. He steps between stances pretty seamlessly, Finol. Good use of the left hand there. So he's having a decent passage here as we head into the final minute of round 5. Good left hand. Just flung up from the waist. And again lands the 1-2, so he's just generating a little bit of momentum here, Yoel Finol. Zoirov knows that he needs to try and do something about that. That's probably the longest sustained passage of clean punching we've seen in the fight so far, I would say. There's a jab from Zoirov. And then just steps around the target, Finol. He was slightly short with the 1-2, stepped off to his left-hand side and then tried to let those hands go. Now, for the first time in a while, I feel I'm happy to nail my colours to the gold ring post there in terms of who won that round.
He was certainly the busier boxer for the majority of the round, which isn't something we've seen to this point. It's often been close to something resembling 50-50, but from an earlier point in the round this time, he began to put his punches together, and he was having success with a real variety of them. Straight overhand left, and that was the point. 4 jabs followed by a left cross downstairs. Very good use of his straights, stepping around his man, couldn't quite get the second phase of the attack away. But again, as evidenced by that sequence, Zoirov always answering, but I think the man getting the better of the majority of the exchanges in the sense that he was often initiating them and having no reply, or when he did have a reply, he would seek to have a final word. I think it's Finol who got the better of that 5th round as we prepare to go into the second half of the bout. But it's very, very close.
As we suspected it might be. I wonder at what point in this second half will one of them decide to try and make a move, really pick up the pace. Because we've been saying, so far it's just been mini moves, if you like, within this context of a round. Little ebbs and flows. One will just up it for a bit, the other one will go with them. But who's going to put their foot on the gas first, looking to try and accelerate towards that final belt? Because they'll both have plenty left in the tank here. There's a lot of concentration that goes into this, and of course, that's underrated as a source of fatigue. But these two are both obviously in very, very good shape. And Zoirov prowling on that front foot with maybe just a bit more menace at the start of the 6th than we saw in that 5th. You've got to be so tuned in and switched on at all times. You have to recognise any kind of a shift as soon as it happens. Ideally, you have to be able to see them coming, anticipate what might be coming from your opponent in terms of their intention as well as their punching. Left hand there was solid. Combination there from Zoirov, but the gloves are up for Finol. As I say, that guard is pretty effective. A couple got through there though, the jab again, which has worked well for him. Right hand from Finol, left into the body there from Zoirov. I think both of them just landing at the same time there. Heading up towards the final minute of the round, just coming off that left hand slightly there, Zoirov. Again, he's just trying to use that front foot pressure. Stepping to you with that lead foot, trying to take that space, but Finol's comfortable on that back foot. It's very difficult to make him rush things. You can't induce any sense of panic in him. Long left hand there from Finol. And again, just trying to put his hands together at the end of the round here. Catches Zoirov again with another left hand, who's trying to pull his weight onto that back foot in the corner and then spring back out with the left if he can. Chop it down with the left hand. Finol doesn't quite land it. The clapper goes, and I think they both realise they need to finish strong here. Zoirov, I think, of the two, certainly does, because he was on the end of a flurry there. And then right at the end of the round, he came back, and that right there is a good kind of microcosm of the fight, because we had 30 seconds remaining. Finol upped it, and then Zoirov realised that he had to immediately respond because he was running out of time in the round.
And prior to that 30-second interval, or that 30 seconds to go mark, I was about to suggest that Finol's taking a round off, because there was a terrific response from Zoirov right from the opening bell of the six to come out, increase his tempo, and after his comparatively more energetic shift in round number 5, I thought Finol was taking this round off. But around the 30-second mark, he got on the front foot, had some success, but can that negate what I thought was a pretty clear first 2.5 minutes in favour of Zoirov, by virtue of his more effective aggression and his higher punch output, plenty of which were accurate. Angry mouths developing beneath the right eye of Finol, and they're going to have to get to work with the cold compress and Enswell iron to try and hold that down.
And that could be a problem, because that's come up, and that damage will have been done in that round that we just watched. And given that he finished nice and strong to that round, Zoirov as well, that could well have been one that he's put in his pocket. So 4 remaining here. And if that swelling gets too much worse, it starts to affect the vision, and I think it's coming up all the time, just looking at it across the ring there. It seems worse now than it did when he was sat down. And this is the last thing you need at this kind of stage. And when he's in that southpaw stance, that's his lead eye, if that makes sense. He's not going to see things coming on that side as well. He can still see out of it. And these are the kinds of things you have to contend with as a fighter, and it will give Zoirov confidence, it will give him a boost. That kind of damage always does. Just looking to get his punches away on the inside, and he's just taking his feet slightly closer, I think, in this round, Zoirov. He's looked for that jab a lot, but this time he's just sliding those feet in a little bit closer, looking to punch a bit harder, virtue of shortening them up. He's still got that lovely loose kind of movement and reflexes there, Finol. Just trying to get on the jab there, Finol. Slightly short with it, short with the right hand as well. He made a good start to the round again here, Zoirov. Heading towards the final minute. Right into the body there from Finol. Long left hand landed. He tried to pull his weight all the way back there, Finol. It didn't quite work. Zoirov rather, because Finol stepped in. He's got long levers, the Venezuelan. That's a decent combination from Zoirov. Bouncing the jab through a couple of times. And again, 2 shots landing there from Zoirov, but Finol comes straight back. Sticking his feet and letting that hand go there, Finol. But again, Zoirov with the jab there. Finol just shaping with that right hand, left hand, and then didn't throw it in the end. Closing stages of the round here. Zoirov again with a good scoring shot. A nice lead hand, and again, and he could well have put together a couple of good round wins here, Zoirov. It's one of those fights where it has been nip and tuck, but I think for the first time somebody's probably back 2 in a row where you wouldn't really argue.
Yeah, I think Zoirov is really making a concerted effort to claim these last couple of rounds, or has claimed these couple of rounds more decisively. And at the point you commented on it, Andy, Finol may well have been able to stay out of that right eye, but right now I'm not sure he can. It has been reduced to a slit. He's persisting as a southpaw boxer. He's an adept switch hitter. But by being in the southpaw stance, that was where it is really just compressed. And it's as though a boiled egg has been inserted beneath that right eye, so he's got problems. Can he turn to the orthodox stance in a bid to try and keep that right eye out of harm's way? It's going to affect his peripheral vision, of course, his spatial awareness. So the man, Zoirov, has got the momentum, and he's also got a boxer dealing with the adversity of a significant eye injury, because that right optic is really impaired here.
It did just gradually get worse during the course of the round. I think it must have come up quite late in the sixth, because when he sat down, that was the first time we really noticed it, and then it just started to grow pretty rapidly from that moment on. And maybe it's just calmed down a little bit now, but it's too late, because, as you say, you can't really see too much out of that eye. So into the eighth round, Zoirov in the black, Finol in the white, and Zoirov has maybe just made that move that we were talking about and opened up a little bit of a gap here. There's been some very, very tight rounds. If you went his way with them, then he'd have a healthy lead, I think. But if you went Finol's way with them, then this will still be tight. Well, he's staying southpaw. Good jab there from Finol. Looking to try and send that third punch of the combination straight down the middle there, Zoirov. Finol into the body. Long 1-2 there from Finol. And just keeping that upper body on the move there, Finol, just hinging quite low at the waist, lands a good jab. It's the final minute of the round, chopping down with that left hand. Zoirov, though, is putting him under some pressure here. There's that single left. Finol comes back, double jab, left hand. He's working hard here, the Venezuelan, because he knows that he's going to get hit with the odd one that he can't really do anything about. Exactly like that. He won't have seen that left hand from Zoirov particularly until it was too late, but he's landed some good shots himself here. Right hand slung from low. Final 10 seconds. And Zoirov just trying to get through with that long left hand. The right hand came back there from Finol. It's a good response from Finol.
Most certainly is a terrific response from the Venezuelan boxer. It's such a thrilling experience to watch him go about his work, and now with the impairment that he's dealing with, it's almost like you're watching a high wire act, because he's in the pocket and he's sidestepping around his man. There's the end swallow and the cold compress. That'll be sat in a bucket of ice, and then the corner man, as he's doing there, that piece of cold steel will be trying to push the contusion away from the eye. It's a painful experience, but Finol dodging and darting on the edge of range, slipping and weaving away from punches and coming back with counters such as that, all while doing it as a one-eyed operator. I think that was a terrific response from Yoel Finol in the eighth.
So 2 to go here. The IBA.PRO World Bantamweight title on the line. They met here in Dubai a year ago. It was an absolute humdinger of a fight and resulted in a majority verdict in favour of Finol. Everybody wanted to see it again. It's taken a little while to happen, but nobody minds about that now. It's been a technical affair, which it was always going to be when you've got two highly skilled operators like these gentlemen. Now, who can finish the stronger? I think they've both got plenty of gas left in the tank, but they've been so focused and so tuned in here, it's difficult to see anybody getting too reckless. That's not going to happen. They're going to want to keep their shape. They're not going to want to give anything away. They've done a lot of hard work. Straight left hand down the middle. And again, that just homes in from a side where Finol maybe didn't really see it, particularly when he's got that glove up in place. It's better to have the glove there than not, but that'll give him even less chance of seeing anything coming. Zoirov just trying to work those hands. Finol looking to throw the jab back. Just trying to rip with that right uppercut there, Finol. Standing pretty much square. It makes it difficult to anticipate which hand the punch is going to come from midway through the round. And as I said, they're both just resisting the temptation. Left hand lands there from Zoirov to do what they're probably dying to do, which is just click through the gears and let it all go here, because they know that the other is good enough that if they do that, then they get a little bit ragged, they could be made to pay. And it's such fine margins in there. Neither one is prepared to do that. It's the final minute. Left hand there from Finol. Close the gap down, nice and tight. Just short with the 1-2 that time, the Venezuelan. Final 20 seconds, Zoirov looking for that single left hand. Good jab, 1-2 there from Zoirov. Really solid stuff, and again there's that jab and he looks for it one more time towards the end of the round. Left hand lands there again from the Uzbek. Closed the round out in good fashion there, the last 10-15 seconds.
Well, with 3 minutes remaining, this one is incredibly close indeed. And as you pointed out, it's unlikely that anybody is just going to let themselves off the leash and go hell for leather, because the skill level is too high and too close between these two familiar rivals to hope that is going to be successful. But if I had to hedge, I would probably say that the man who's got to produce the greatest sense of urgency in the final round is the man in the other corner, the man in the gold corner. I think Zoirov perhaps just leading. And with 3 minutes remaining, I think the onus is going to be on Finol as they continue to try and move that swelling around with the eye and away from the eye of Finol. I think the onus is on him to try and do something big here in the final 3 minutes. By no means can Zoirov afford to enter bout management mode and just see it over the line. But I do think that Finol's going to have to come with a big final round here.
I'm on the same page as you. I think that Zoirov is most likely in front here, but there have been close rounds, and if all the close rounds go one way, then all of a sudden that just tightens it right back up again, and there's no way that either fighter here, particularly not Finol, could be thinking that they've got a lead here and you just need to stay on your feet. So you have to send your man out to win the round and do it in disciplined fashion, and that's what they've looked to do in every single round that they boxed. It did start slowly in the first, but it picked up a little bit, particularly in the third. Long left hand there from Zoirov, and although it's never really gone supersonic, we know the reasons why. But it's been good to watch. Two very skillful technicians. High quality boxing. jab there from Finol. Swapping jabs just inside the second minute of the round. Maybe when that internal clock hits a minute to go, that might be the point at which they decide to let themselves off the leash. That's good use of the lead hand again there, though, from Zoirov. Finol throwing those punches in from unusual angles. That upper body movement is still very much there. Good left hand there from Finol. Zoirov just missing with his. You just feel like Finol should get on the jab, throw that jab as often as he possibly can, because it's worked for him. Just got caught on the way out there, I think, and the Finol corner like that a lot, that they're encouraging him to get after his man. A 1-2 came back again there from Zoirov. Okay, a minute to go. Long left hand there from Zoirov. Left hand comes back from Finol, just ditched over the top. The referee, is he going to give the knockdown or not? He isn't going to give the knockdown. I think it's the right decision. I think it's the right decision. There seems to be a push there from Finol. I thought there was a punch just before it, but I don't think Zoirov was going to go down from it. That big clubbing, long left landed there from Finol. 30 seconds to go in the fight, and Finol maybe just looking like he's getting on top a little bit slightly here. And Zoirov is the one who's just trying to find a bit of space and swinging a bit more desperately of the two. Right hand in there from Zoirov, and Finol just needs to try and land a couple more towards the end of the round here, and that might be enough to take it. He's trying to set about Zoirov, and he didn't quite manage to land, and he raises his gloves there, the Venezuelan. And just looking at Zoirov up above us here, I don't think that was a legitimate knockdown, but something got through there because a piece of him got taken away, and Finol knew it, and he finished strong. Who knows how this is going to go? Indeed.
And to your point, Andy, after the shove, which wasn't ruled a knockdown, and then Finol set about him again, and I'm just astounded by the razor-sharp movements and athleticism and quickness that he was still able to exhibit deep into that 10th round of what was being a high concentration, intense boxing match. And in stark contrast, I saw the eyes from our commentary position here ringside at the Dubai Duty Free Tennis Center. The eyes of Zoirov looked over the top rope like he was looking for a jumbotron to see how long was left in the round. And that was a remarkable conclusion, because physically it was Finol with that eye injury who appeared to be the worst for wear. But the engine that he demonstrated and the sharpness of reflex, because speed is something that can dissipate when fatigue kicks in, but the quickness that he demonstrated with his upper body movements and with the speed of his punches, it was absolutely remarkable. And I didn't anticipate that going into the final round, that it would be Zoirov ending apparently in the more challenging physical state. So perhaps something did occur in that 10th and final round, and Finol finishing strong. Which way is this one going to go? It's that type of reaction it's bringing from fans in the crowd. Perfect. Because it was indeed a breathless affair of skill and IQ of the highest order. What a contest.
It really was, it really was. And I couldn't pick out the individual punch, but something caught him in that final round, because all of a sudden he looked a bit jaded. And neither one of them had really hit that stage up until that point. I think round 6 and 7 we thought were pretty clear Zoirov rounds. Outside of that, there wasn't that much clear, to be honest. He probably won that first one because he was the busier, but outside of those rounds, you could go almost any which way with the other 7, and that's just the way we saw it anyway. So, in terms of the scoring, it's not impossible. 6-4 either way and anything in between. Maybe even as far as stretching that to 7-3. I really couldn't tell you.
But to your point, if all of the close rounds have gone one way, they could be really wide, but that won't be a reflection of what took place, because it was nip and tuck for practically the entire 10 rounds. And this must be incredibly nerve-wracking for the boxers here now. Alexander Sadokov is in position.
Okay, here we go.
Ladies and gentlemen, after 10 big rounds, we go to the judges' scorecards. Judge 1, 97-93. Judge 2, 94-96. And judge 3, 98-95. And your winner by split decision. And still, IBA.PRO Bantamweight World Champion, Yoel Finol.
Well, Yoel Finol gets it 97-93. That's a clean 7-3 over the 10 rounds. And for me, that means that the close rounds did go his way. That's how you end up with that. 96-94 to Zoirov. I can see absolutely how you get there. I think the third card was at 98-95, and that is an unusual card because that's 4-3 and 3 drawn in a 10-round fight, and that just shows you how difficult a fight it was to score. I've got my calculations wrong there with that final card, but it is one of those fights, and the cards kind of tell you what it was, because I'm not arguing strenuously with any of them really, even though they are so different.
Indeed, and that is what can often happen when a contest is incredibly close, because each one, this man had one clear round, and then Zoirov stitched together seemingly a couple of rounds where he was the better boxer. But other than that, it was often the pattern was a strong start from Zoirov, a strong conclusion from Finol. And at the end of it, did all the judges see one round, the rounds that were close one way? That's all we can conclude from the scorecard that went for Finol. But to have that international title retained by him, an absolutely incredible accomplishment. And look at what it means to him. Exuberant scenes at the announcement of the verdict, and he bursted into expressive celebration with his team. And it's going to be a happy plane ride back to Caracas for the man from Venezuela.
And Zoirov couldn't get out of the ring fast enough.
Stark contrast.
He'll feel that it's happened to him again. 98-95, by the way, is 5 rounds to 2 and 3 drawn. That's how you get that. 3 rounds drawn in a 10-round fight, and judges across the world do their absolute best not to give drawn rounds. That is the protocol. That's the game they're in. You've got to do everything you can to separate the two fighters through scoring punches, and that particular judge just couldn't really do it. And we said before the announcement was given that you can have it one way and the other and anything in between, and it all depends on how you scored a number of really, really tight rounds. So I don't really object to it, but I understand it from Zoirov. You understand why he's going to feel terribly wronged by this, but at the same time, I don't.
Ladies and gentlemen, before we continue, please your applause.
Indeed, it was that type of contest, and as we stated during commentary, it could simply be a case of what do you prefer, and that can often be as a result of the school in which you're raised, the amount of boxing that you see most. You get some boxers, some judges who prefer the come forward pressure. You get some who prefer the slipping and sticking and moving. So it's a subjective sport ultimately. And again, taking that philosophical